Under our operating conditions, the corrosion resistance of the Mercedes E-class W210 cannot be called high. On the cars of the first years of production, rust pockets appeared on the wheel arches, sills, and the lower edge of the trunk lid. Big-Eyed was presented in 3 trim levels: classic, elegance, and avant-garde. To the choice of the last option, despite the high level of finish, should be treated with caution. This car in the European market was distinguished by a ground clearance reduced by 20 millimeters, so for frequent trips to the regions it is wiser to look at cars that have a larger supply of living space under the bottom, or get ready to replace the springs with higher ones. The same applies to the rarely seen top versions from AMG, which have a clearance of 25 millimeters lower than standard models. The cheapest modifications should also cause concern. After all, they were often bought for taxi service. In the future, similar cars with a mileage of 500 to 700,000 kilometers were sold on the secondary market at low prices. Later, taxi drivers were posed as civilian cars with innocent mileage. You can identify such cars by shabby or too new seat upholstery, only remotely resembling a high-quality Mercedes finish, as well as by traces on the dashboard left after the dismantling of radio telephones or counters. Engine. The choice of motors for the Big-Eyed is unusually wide. Gasoline modifications are more common, a characteristic feature of which, like diesel engines, is the use of a durable chain in the timing drive instead of a belt, serves up to 300,000 kilometers. There is a choice from the base 2.0-liter modification, obviously rather weak for an almost 1.5-ton car, to the 5.0-liter engine from AMG, turning a sedan into an uncompromising slower car. Acceleration to 100 km/h for the E55 AMG takes only 5.7 seconds. The fee for different levels of equipment is appropriate. In a 2.0-liter, 136 horsepower, gasoline engine, the airflow sensor may fail and the electronics of the accelerator pedal actuator may fail. The larger the engine, the more likely problems will occur. In the most popular 6-cylinder engines in our market with a volume of 2.8 and 3.2 liters, M104 series, oil often leaks from under the cylinder head gasket. In newer units of a similar volume, M112 series after 1997, due to incompatibility with fuel, frequent clogging of fuel injectors was noted. The airflow meter after a run of 120 to 150,000 kilometers may also require replacement. The heaviest 8-cylinder engines finish off not only the suspension, but the engine hydraulic mounts much faster. In addition, the largest units in terms of volume are more expensive to maintain than others. So, for example, they use candles with platinum electrode tips on each cylinder. There are a lot of diesel modifications of the Big-Eyed in our market. The more affordable E220D is also the most reliable, since there is no supercharging in its design. The payback for durability will be more than mediocre dynamics at the level of the classic Ziguli. For more temperamental drivers, 2.9-liter and 3.0-liter turbocharged units are intended. In 1997, the naturally aspirated engine was removed from the range, replacing it with an inline B-cylinder turbo diesel. No faults were found in these motors, but it is necessary at least, after 20,000 kilometers, to change the fuel filter. Otherwise, problems with the injection pump cannot be avoided. It should be remembered that in 2.2 and 2.9-liter units this unit is reparable, and its replacement will negate all the savings. After a run of 100 to 120,000 kilometers, it may also be necessary to replace the injector slot nozzles. Transmission. Despite the rather high status of the model, there are often Big-Eyed with a 5-speed manual gearbox. The exception is modifications with a volume of those 3.2 liters. For them, mechanics was not provided even as an option, and in vain. This node is devoid of any shortcomings. The only thing worth remembering, an oil link is produced every 100,000 kilometers. Even the clutch of powerful modifications can last more than 150,000 kilometers. Around the same time, it will also be necessary to replace the rear axle gearbox oil seals. The W210 4-speed automatic transmissions come in 2 types, with conventional hydraulic control, until 1997, and modern automatic machines with a complex electronic brain. The unit of an outdated design requires regular oil changes, but his air is considered unattended. This is misleading to many. If so, then you can forget about this node. In fact, the condition of the oil needs to be monitored. If it is dark, with a burnt smell, then interference cannot be avoided. Fortunately, both types of automatic transmissions are maintainable. With timely competent maintenance, automatic machines, without replacing clutches, can last more than 250,000 kilometers. Rarely come across modifications with a 4-matic all-wheel drive transmission that distributes torque between the front and rear axles in a ratio of 35:65. The transmission elements themselves do not cause any complaints. The top versions with all-wheel drive were equipped as standard not only with ABS, but also with ASR traction control and ESP stabilization system. Both systems are serviced by a single hydraulic module, which, if driven too actively on fairly driven specimens, can leak. Treatment is a complete replacement. Running. The chassis of the W210 is close to many competitors in terms of reliability. Judge for yourself, according to the testimony of experts and owners of Big Eye. On our roads, the service life of stabilizer struts does not exceed 20 to 30,000 kilometers, ball bearings, 40 to 50,000 kilometers, and silent blocks of the front levers, 100 to 120,000 kilometers, closer to running at 82 km will need to replace the upper ball bearings, and they, alas, supplied with levers only. Shock absorbers on most modifications walk about 100,000 kilometers. But versions with heavy 8-cylinder engines can cut their service life in half. The rear suspension of the Big Eye will require the first intervention after 120 to 140,000 kilometers. This is a rather costly undertaking, since it will be necessary to change not only shock absorbers, but also 10 rear multi-link levers, whose silent blocks wear out almost simultaneously. Steering. Considerable attention should be paid to the steering rack. If the mileage exceeded 200,000 kilometers, leakage is not ruled out. The rail is difficult to repair, and it's better not to remember the cost of a new one. Tie rod ends will last up to 100,000 kilometers. As the practice of operating the Mercedes E-class W210 shows, there are no miracles. The reliability of these cars is based solely on attention and timely maintenance. At its core, Big Eye is a status car that requires costs and overpayments for the image.